Hi, I'm Kalana de Silva. I'm watching Channa 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 podcast. Hope you'll enjoy.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of my podcast. We have very special guest today joining all the way from UAE. We got Kalana de Silva joining the podcast. Hi Kalana.
Hi, Channa. It's a real pleasure to be here. So
Yeah, really pleasure. I think it's we are meeting probably after like 20 years, maybe, right?
exactly. Yeah. After a long time, it's like I can't imagine it's like so many years now because I've been here I came here in 2020. So since then, so it's quite a long time.
Yeah, actually, when we announced this episode, I think somebody actually commented and asked whether we were related, right? Because of our surnames.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, obviously we were like brothers, like from different mothers, like, but because that close we were. Do you remember? So at the time we were in Nigambo.
Mm.
It's like I think Nigambo is so like the people had that warmth and understanding of. They always have that feeling of being like known, like it's like yeah, so how are you, brother, and all this stuff. Remember we already had that time, even though like sometimes we live slightly distant apart in the sense like not far away.
Mm.
It seems like a very small place with a lot of love. That's where we
Yeah,
grew up.
Yeah, Kalan, I remember that one time we were in C Street. I think you were staying alone those days, and you were playing guitar, and we had an evening, and you just played guitar. We were just chatting, and I really remember that night.
There's around I think because we shifted to Jayala, the family shifted to Jayala, and but still because I was playing in a lot of hotels, I was gigging a lot, and since it's night, and then my parents didn't want me to come, so they said like you stay here instead of coming. So that's where I think I started settling down there, and most of my lessons happened there as well. I think well the Sea Street is kind of a very convenient place to do lessons in the afternoons then. And yeah, it's a lovely place. I still remember those times, lovely times with our friends. And then all my like the Gamboris, Sham and Shiral and everybody came. They said like, "Oh, we are going to stay here." So they took over the place.
Right. So Kalana, you mentioned that you were staying in Abu Dhabi for like more than 20 years now, right? So
Almost, yeah.
can you tell me a little bit about the city and how's the life there?
Abu Dhabi is very compared to Dubai. It's very homely, but Abu Dhabi is, as you know, is Abu means father.
Mm.
Abu Dubai, Abu Dhabi holds the biggest land in whole of UAE, and they are very rich. So they have not done any promotions in terms of tourism and all, but that side of it is developing a lot. But still, I think they are quite. I'm not saying Dubai is not wealthy; they are also wealthy, but they are quite of wealthy countries. But in terms of the freedom, you name it, they have everything. You have you have nightclubs and the pubs and everything, but there are certain restrictions. We need to respect that. That's some country rules, but they have given so much of freedom to the people. Especially for the musicians. When you look at it, when I came in 2000, and up to the stage right now, the country has developed so much, and then the amount of opportunities, especially in the entertainment side, because it's humongous, it's like huge. So I feel it's great that I've decided to stay here for a long, so I could see the difference that the country was emerging, so how much of changes they have done over the years. Now, especially for the musicians, I know lots of bands from Philippines. I know a lot of musicians from Philippines. Um, I worked with them. I have worked with them, and I've played in their bands, and a lot of things. I've seen them in playing in a lot of nightclubs and gigging a lot around here. So it's been a fantastic place. Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It's been amazing places. for the musicians and for the people as well. I think and we feel like home. That's why we stay here. It's so much of freedom here, and people might get it wrong. People might think, okay, and when you come to UAE, and it's like you come to certain restrictions. You cannot do anything. Obviously, there are certain ethics in a country like they need to respect. And but the thing is, uh, apart from that, it's like there's you can do anything here. It's like same like Europe. It's like it's an amazing place. But it's like Abu Dhabi compared to Dubai. If you say briefly, Abu Dhabi is more homely.
Right. So how did this pandemic situation in Abu Dhabi now?
It's well in control, and people are getting checked. Huge amount of time, so people are getting checked. Like example, like per day, I think more than 100,000, 150,000 PCR tests going on. And the people, the frontline workers, such as the doctors and obviously the teachers and everybody, they have started their work as normal. So I've been going to the school from last year, I think last year November. Um, I've been attending physical lessons. The children were coming to school. Time to time, they have to close down under certain restrictions because they had certain criteria that these numbers goes up, then you have to close down this bubble, close down this bubble. It works in a bubble concept. So they are amazingly organized, well in control. They know what's happening. They won't hesitate to take actions in terms of whatever. When it comes to the safety, they give that priority to the safety, and yes, and then all PCR tests in workplaces are done free, no charge. And if you and for the COVID patients and all, they were well treated. And then and for the vaccines and all were given. Almost, I think they're reaching up to the vaccines now, the previous vaccines, and now they are administrating the next vaccine, which is Pfizer and all this stuff. Because they are encouraging people to take vaccines so they can resume work as normal. So they are pretty keen to get back into the normal scene rather than waiting game. They don't want to do that. So these are industrial countries. They want people to work. They want to work and they want to move forward. So in that terms, I think the country has taken some really good steps. So they are handling it really well. I felt like they're doing it really well.
Right. I remember I had a flight when I was going to Europe. I had a flight in Dubai, and then the main thing I remember was it was so hot. Even inside the airport, I was still sweating.
Yeah. You come to UAE or Gulf, you have to get used to it. You come from the AC out, and then suddenly, like you're dripping.
It was so hot. Yeah, and when you're like taking a shower, you didn't. It was like the water was already hot. You didn't have to take hot water, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's when you get used to it, it becomes like a normal thing. But when you suddenly when you feel like, is really it's like
Right. So Kalana, I mean, I obviously we know each other a lot during the childhood, but I want to understand, like, can you tell me a little bit about your childhood, and what's your earliest memory of music?
my earliest memory of music is like playing in a carol. It's like that's my first interaction. So I knew only two chords. I had to break all the strings at the end of the day. So but I knew only two chords, and somehow I managed with those two chords. My father taught them in 1989, I think, and that's the earliest. I think I was around 12, touching 13, something like that. I was 12, I think. Because that's my earliest memories of starting the guitar. And if you want me to talk further down on the childhood, and then that's my entry to the guitar. So that's where I started. Even though my father was a guitarist from a long time back, so I never wanted to play.
Mm.
But there was because the football was taken over then. So I thought football was going to be my life. Then I decided. Suddenly, I had like I felt like the guitar was. It was like a coming onto me instead of me taking over the guitar. But later on, it just we had that discussions. The biggest time happened when the O levels we finished O levels and we had the 6 months gap. Usually nowadays we don't have it, but that time we had to wait for 6 months till we settle down for A levels. So during that time we had to do something. That is the time we started doing bands, and we said, like the boys said, and we had a gang of friends. It's like it's like in a gang in the sense in a very jolly way. So the boys, young boys. So then we thought like we'll make a band, and we went to a place called Sisaraya's place. He's a lovely person, and then we went there and um, we started playing in bands. It's mostly Oriental then, and then after a certain time, I think the Sham, Anil, Amal, Kalum, Sanjeev, and Manura, and all of them were in a different band, and I was doing a different band with George and Chandika and all. And then after a while, we decided, because we decided to merge those two bands. That's where we actually came together. Even Shiral was there, and then that's why we decided to take a break from Sisraya and do our own, because and Shane was also there, and then because our passion, we felt our passion was drifting more to western side instead of more eastern side. So because then we were not getting enough exposure to do more of that line. So we decided, okay, let's move on and try to do our own. So I started managing the band then as a music, I would say, director, because I was working out all the music. I was listening to all the parts. Olden days, we had cassettes, right?
Right.
So you have to listen to a part, you have to play, and then rewind, listen, rewind, listen. Forward is non-stop. All the cassette players were gone. The heads were gone because I was I got fed up of pressing the stop button. I was just while it was playing. I was pressing the rewind button. It's just go back, come back. So it's fun times. That was the earliest stage of my Western. That was the entry to my Western music line, I would say, because with them, the amount of passion we had, even though they didn't pursue music as a career, but amount of passion we had amongst us was amazing. So we when we were talking about the music meter, we were talking about the bands and the music, and we loved that kind of a Western music line. You remember then Sham was playing a lot of inner circle numbers and a lot of reggae numbers. He had a very strong voice. Where it's like he has a obliterating voice, and then wait for the dancing stuff and all. So he was handling that, and Manor was handling all the Oriental side, and the Shane was handling all the harmony and some of the ballads and everything. So we had a good balance. Um, so it's around for 2 years, 3 years, and yeah, that's it. And after that, when the A levels came in, I did maths before my A levels, and some of them were in different lines. But still, we did manage to pull up the band and do lots well. Actually, I think the music life has, in a way, I would say it's right. The music has life has kind of changed our path to do well in our studies in a certain way, because we have picked up that line quite late as a group. So it is the music has taken over. The music did take over some of the workload of education as well. So it was kind of, maybe for some people must have been slightly harmful, but I think for me it was a life changer actually. And then but we kept on going. After A levels, people had to move on to their own paths and on career opportunities, and because everybody had on their own dreams. Some of them went to banking, and some of them went to different lines. So but they all did part-time music. So but and then I decided, so I have to do full-time music to survive here. So then my real thing started then. So if you want me to keep going, I can keep going for another hour, but
uh,
also.
Yeah, Kalana, I have a question. So I know that I definitely know what you guys were like listening back then. Like I know that there was a huge influence of Eric Clapton, because Eric Clapton, we were playing those songs a lot, right? And
Yeah,
then Clarence, of course, Oriental side, that songs are very very popular
yeah,
among us. And
yeah.
but I watched one of these interviews of you mentioned that you got this book of Beatles codes. Music book that really got you into playing the guitar, right? Can you tell me a little
Exactly.
bit about that?
I think the Beatles, the what really I must have played that, the thick Beatles book that which had thousands of songs, and almost thousand, like or a bit more than that. I'm not sure. So, but all of their songs and the chord progressions, I played that song because advice given to me, one of the Eric Uncle was there, and Shirley Mendes is because they had a band, Eric Mendes, Shirley Mendes, been quite popular in Migambo then. But Shelly uncle said, "You want to play Western music, Putha? You need to play Beatles." So when I started hearing Beatles in a certain way, that we in those days we didn't have access to those songs.
Right.
There's no YouTube, so we had to go to a record bar and ask Uncle, "Can you record this? Can you record this? Can you record this?" I remember Uncle Randy, I think it is, who lived. What's his name? I forgot. Who lived in near
Coin, coin,
Queen,
yeah.
his father.
Randy
And
Coin,
I
yeah.
went to him. I've selected some certain list of songs. I said, "Uncle, can you record this?" In the purpose of all learning, and then those cassettes were really helpful then. So I think I was collecting those cassettes and listening to a huge amount of songs. And then it's that I really helped, and then we had to listen to all the Beatles songs. But actually, from in a certain way, because I've learned to read music in between as well. Those Beatle books came into act really well intact because everybody had lead sheets and the chords and the lyrics and everything there. So I started reading the lead sheets as well as the chords, even though I have not heard the song. I've before hearing it, I've already played it from the book, in from the notation book, and then I've realized the tune. Like remember, I was playing I was reading yesterday. I've never heard yesterday.
Mhm.
Then and I was reading from the notation book, and I decided I'm going to do a harmony like as kind of like a completely different little original song. It's like umpa pa pa umpa pa pa. Instead, we did umpa 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 da da da. Like so, it's like it was a funny thing. Then later on, I heard the song. So it's imagine the what I was thinking was different, the accompaniment,
Right.
and then it's amazing to think, it's like later on it came together. John Lennon, what he used to do, he was while they're practicing, he was recording each and every recording. So they were, after they make the song, after they make the arrangement and everything, they try with different styles. Example, if you try with rumba, if you start with a straight or a ballad, or if you start with this one, they try with different ones, and then he decides this one works best. So I think that's something. It's because now, because I had that influence of Oriental music then, because that's kind of like that bass line and that kind of line. I think it came into my work instead, and then got mixed up there. So, but it was nice that we every shows we played and we started. That's our starting song. That was our starting song. So like that, I was reading lots of Beatles stuff, because the amount of variety, amount of knowledge, amount of things you could get from Beatles up to date, it's it's phenomenal.
Right.
It's absolutely out of, it'll blow your mind if you really a musician who wants to really get onto it. That's it. That has that will, if you want to even want to play jazz music, that gives access to that. So I didn't find that difficult to move on to that jazz music, because I've already played a lot of progressions here and there, and then they Beatles, they had it, you
Right.
know That's why I think it influenced me a lot. Not only Beatles, Richard Marx, and all the fingerstyle stuff, because we were hunting behind the fingerstyle arrangements and everything. Because my work was more terrorized around fingerstyle work, that's where I think we got into the more of a Western line, and then I worked with a band called Intrigue with Shane, Sean, and Dineth, and what's his name, PK, and a lot of other musicians along the way. And then they had a band. We had inter school competition, so I went and played along with them. I played only guitar with, and then they had singing group. Amazing harmonizing, a very talented group. I think you know Shane Sean, right? You remember
Yes,
Shane?
yes, yes. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
that's where it came about. So that I then after that I could again I could talk a lot, but I think you have some certain things in the agenda.
yeah. So you mentioned about all this, you know, doing the bands, playing gigs, and doing most of the popular music. When did you really got into classical guitar? What really inspired you to, like, okay, I want to pursue classical guitar?
It came out of nowhere just because I was playing around 5 years. I was just playing chords and the bass guitar and all this stuff. But the thing is, later on, I didn't know that this thing was existing because we were close to the whole world now. Because as I've said, there was no YouTube, no access to the other people. We don't know what other people are playing. Only the people around Nigambo area that I know that if there's a musician, I'll go to them. Like even I had to beg. I would go and learn. So that was my motive. It's like because then my sister was doing in C Street. There was a place called there was free yoga place, and she found it somehow because they were keen on interested in finding all this stuff. It was it's and then she said, Mali, actually. There's these people who's there. I think they were from Philippines, and they were they were stable there to do yoga to groups, and like because it's more of a tourist area, so a lot of tourists are coming in, a lot of other people are coming in, like a lot of mixed community there. So I went over there, and then I saw it's really different. It's like using fingers, but I whatever he taught me, I got it overnight because playing with the fingers was something that I was accustomed to because my father plays with the fingers all the time. He never can play with the pick. So, but it's I had to play with the pick for the band and sometimes with the fingers under this. But playing with the fingers is something I got it naturally. So overnight, whatever he played, I got it. So then I went over there a few times, and then I had to stop because I was young, and then I was going alone. I was kind of scared because my father is a military person, so he said I was scared that I might get into trouble, so he might not approve that. So then I started searching so about this classical guitar, and that's how they said, okay, you need to find a Sisiraya told me first, no, no, my Mal, if you want this, I cannot help you, but I will take you to somebody who can help you. And then he took me to Shelly Uncle, and then Shelly Uncle was in Kiripatkoda then. So from then he took me to Shelly Uncle, such an amazing person. The Shirley uncle is the one who wrote Subhamanu and Sevika and all this stuff. And then he's a Maristonian as well, but he he eventually has like a huge like he's a trained English teacher, and then the amount of giving, the love he had to give to a pupil was up to date. I think I could not think of a person that's so kind and loving. Obviously all my teachers were kind and loving, but Shirley uncle gave me that approach at the beginning. So without him, I wouldn't have got that. It's like I'm a person. When I need something, I need it now. I need everything now, kind of thing. So because I can sort out stuff later, but I don't want somebody who's giving me a little, come tomorrow to get little, come tomorrow to get little. I just need everything because I'm a self-motivated student. So then he gave me stuff to work on. So it just took me around 3 hours to figure out those notations because I couldn't read music then. So and then I worked out because now I know that that day I worked out that piece was standard level 2 piece that it took me 3 hours to work out. So, but that's my approach to classical guitar. Then after A levels, I was doing A levels. Then and then in the afternoons, straight after school with the white uniform, I took a bus to Kiribati, and from Kiribati you have to take two buses there. So I took two buses and going over to his house, and then he was teaching me some stuff. But the thing is, he himself was in a verge of like leaving music and do different jobs because the music was not giving enough income for him to stable his family life.
Right.
So and he was into all sort of things, and then but I somehow managed to get him at time to time and get a lot of knowledge through him. And then I come in the evening to my house, and I was getting scolding from my father saying that where were you? Because you had you finished your school and you went over there, and we don't know what you're doing. Because the classical music scene was not even popular in Negombo because nobody was there to teach me then in Negombo.
Right.
And then that's how it started, and after that he's motivated me to say, I said I wanted to do music exams like the piano teachers, and then I went to some piano teachers. They said there are no music exams for the guitar. The guitars are played on the streets now. How can they read music? So we don't know about that. So it's like very funny things came in. But I think I thought like because I was enjoying what I was learning, I was enjoying what I was playing. So I was not having any future plans for to. I wanted to explore. I wanted to go deep into it. That was my motive then. So and then she said, "Okay, Kalana, only person you want to do make music exams, you have to meet Mr. Jude Peters." So Mr. Jude Peters was is the former Commodore Peters, but he's the three forces like a bandmaster, like not only bandmaster, he was the director of the music in the Navy band, and then he's made huge difference to many musicians' lives. We all know about him. He's such a strong figure in Sri Lanka. And as a person, I got to know him after that. It's like it's been a long journey. Up to date, I talk to him, and then we arrange a lot of things. We do workshops and all. But he helped me from since then. When I got into his hands, I knew I am on safe hands. There was no time I looked back for another teacher for a different purpose because he's such an amazing person. His subject knowledge was like phenomenal, like amazing, like remarkable knowledge. And you talk about different subjects, like you talk about jazz or rock or pop or anything. He has that, and it's not only classical. So he got everything. So then I had met some people like other musicians like Mr. Morris Soisa, and then he was teaching me for a while because I was in Negombo, so I thought like I'll meet him. So he taught me a different line of acquiring knowledge on a different line, like playing single lines on different things. So it's like that. So I had, and then I met Miss Christine along the way. She taught me all the music theory and all. So it's like that. So that's how I came into the classical line, and since then, because but in Sri Lanka the issue was when you play classical guitar, and there was no platform for us to play classical guitar because there was not a huge audience. So they might say, "Oh, nice," but people were not willing to sit down and enjoy uh, a music, something that's coming from a guitar, just simply that. And the other thing is guitar, when it comes to solo instrument, it is one of the most difficult instruments to carry across to the audience because it is a quiet instrument and it had its own difficulties of projecting the sound. And then it is you have to be at a really good level performer to win the audience in a certain stage. So it was a challenging instrument, and then we were getting because the people didn't know what was about classical guitar because they started criticizing it in a certain way, saying, "What is this? This is no point for us." So you could simply play a song. So we could simply play a song, but the thing is, we were kind of worried, that why this audience didn't understand. So now I understand why they didn't understand. I didn't understand then, but it was like it was difficult to concentrate and to carry on with the guitar as a classical instrument. So I had to play all the other types along with it. I was playing nights, I was playing bands, I was playing acoustic, you name it, calypso, bands, lead guitar, rhythm guitar, bass guitar. I played everything. So like every night I was gigging. Very little amount of money sometimes. It's like it's financially difficult times. But I had my family support, so I didn't have any issues with living there. Because always my mother was earning, my father was earning, my sister was earning. So I didn't have a huge amount issues and huge burden to help my family kind of thing, because I was like kind of set free on that area. Even though we are just a middle class family, just coming trying to come up, because all our families were like that, China, you remember. So all our families, we were, in a way, if we look back, we were well brought up in a way. It's because our parents was backing us all the way, because we didn't have a time that none of us were like are suffering from a certain bits. Because I think if you take most of the Sri Lankans, you say, okay, we are suffering from this, we are suffering from this, but we always had made sure that our parents made sure my child gets enough food on 3 occasions, and then they get all the things they need. Whatever we need, we got it from our parents.
Yeah.
So it was a really good childhood then. So that's how I started my classical guitar. But it's like it's but underneath all of these, I was doing huge amount of self studies. Imagine, I played till 1 o'clock, and then I come from the band, and then I leave that behind. I never, by the way, I never do practice band stuff. I just played on the bandstand, and then I till morning 5 o'clock. That's my practice time. When everything is quiet, I can concentrate. I'm awake till 5 o'clock in the morning, so I practice. Then in the afternoon, I sleep. And then there's some students come around in the afternoon, later after 12 o'clock or something. So then I started doing few lessons again, take off. So that was been my lifestyle. But I think what kept me going is amount of exploring, amount of learning, huge amount of learning. I had a friend of mine called Sven. He has helped me a lot on that area of like example, getting into recordings and especially getting into the music, because getting a print itself that time was kind of difficult. Getting a book itself was difficult because it's not coming across. Nowadays you can go online and order the book. There we don't know what the books are. We don't know which the books are, because it's there's only newspapers are not available. So the country is not educated to do Western music or anything. So that's where I think it came together, and then but I think it's sheer hard work from my part. I'm not saying I've reached a emerging amount huge standard, but to whatever standard I've reached, it came from hard work. I do lots of hard work. I still up to date. I'm the same.
Right. So it's I mean, 2017 Kalana, I actually did one guitar performance. I never took guitar before. Although you know me from, like, you remember, like, my house when you back in the day, I had all the cassettes, all the posters and everything, right? I was into music, but I never took the to play guitar. But what I did in 2017, I actually went to a teacher, and then I actually learned couple of songs, about 6 weeks. And
Yeah.
then after 6 weeks, I actually was able to go and perform that songs on stage, which was a great experience for me, because
Amazing. See, that's all about it. It's like if you enjoy, and so like, it doesn't matter you play few chords or a lot of chords, isn't it? Like if you have,
right.
it's like that's fantastic, Shannon. Because I've been following you for quite a while, and then um, I seen you are approaching into this line of musicians, and such a lovely thing for you to do, and getting podcasts, and in especially getting involved in the music industry, Western musicians, and you're reaching out to them, and you're showing them that there's still a lot of people who's interested in that line. It's like that's amazing. And then you are getting connected with the international arena, the international musicians, and then you are trying to collaborate along with the people in Sri Lanka, as well as in the Philippines as well. It's amazing.
Right. Yeah. Because one thing I noticed is I actually started this Kalana because I used to go to a lot of concerts because before the COVID, that was my like life. So I was go to a lot of shows, different places. But COVID, once the COVID came, I couldn't go anymore anywhere. So I
Yeah,
started the podcast. But I first started talking to friends, close friends, the friends we went to concerts with. Then it happened that some of the bands wanted to come and talk because they didn't have also anything to do during the COVID period.
yeah, yeah,
So and yeah, then I so slowly became that so many different artists, and then what I realized with Sri Lankan artists were there were artists that never had an interview, never had any online presence. Some of the artists, like I talked to like Derek Vikramanayakar of Wildfire
it's
and
amazing.
Shobi Pereira and all these other people, like they never had like any platform for them to even share their like experience, and they're well known artists. So it sort of became a sort of a purpose for me to share the discuss
Yeah.
all these things with the artists. So it gives me a great pleasure actually to have all these artists on my podcast.
Yeah, that's brilliant because I was and then Derek Vikramanayake, he was one of our inspirations in Sri Lankan music industry to go along. The time we had in Sri Lanka, the was it the fan club in ITN.
Yeah,
We used to stay overnight, and like I think it started at 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. So we had to go to school, but we still waited for that program to come in ITN, and where and Derek was, they were one of the legends in that arena. It's like Derek was, and then there are a lot of other guitarists has Kamal and Derek, and there are a lot of other guitarists came in, and whereas we got to know the music industry, Western music line through that.
yeah,
It's so unfortunate. And after some time, they said, no, no, all we are converting everything. So so those musicians, still those people do exist. They do play and but they don't have access to the people who's there in the country saying that, wait, see, we got this much of musicians who's accomplishing this much and this much of talent. It's such a shame that that our media doesn't recognize that value of that kind of music and that our musicians. And you are doing such a brilliant thing on that line, because even though it's you are managing to um, cherry pick some of the musicians. I think it's going to flow. It will start flowing. It should be a line that I think that people are getting more of their sharing their experience. I think that itself motivates a lot of people and then inspire the youngsters, so they then see these people have reached with this much of difficulties. So we are not far off. We still have a life ahead, because I know a lot of musicians, a lot of youngsters give up their career as musicians, or they give up because of a lot of difficulties, financial difficulties. People don't have belief in music. So and all of these things, I think what you're doing right now is brilliant.
yeah. So Kalana, can you tell me a little bit about your journey becoming a teacher? uh, was this accidental or was this purposely you were going for that?
Yeah, so you're spot on. So I think it's I came into the field saying that I wanted to be a performer, because eventually everybody wants to be popular, isn't it? So, so I wanted to perform. So I knew that I'm never going to be a singer, of course, but I wanted to perform guitar. So that was my objective at the beginning. Then when you started performing and here and there, then I started like part time, started teaching few pupils. Then I suddenly realized, actually my teaching was kind of really effective and getting across to them. And then I had the patience and the love for the student to give. So I've never held anything back from a student. So because I've always thought, if I share whatever I have with the student, I will get better, because there's no point. If I'm a good musician, I should be challenged from other musicians. If I say I need to hide my knowledge, I shouldn't share my knowledge. So it won't work for me. But and then I think that itself it work. It's like still what the good thing about it is I still get connected to the people I was teaching very early stages, more than 25 years back. And then they say, Kalana, we missed you. We missed your teaching. We went to several teachers, but we missed you. And I still get connected to some of the people in Italy and some of the people in different places. They get connected through me saying that. So we were waiting to get connected through you after a long time. Still, we were waiting those days. They still remember. So I think up to date, not changed a huge lot. Obviously, my knowledge has expanded a huge amount, I would say, because I think the subject knowledge I acquired is it's huge because I still I not only that I keep growing, I keep learning every day. So because of that, I was then suddenly it overlapped at a certain stage after, especially after coming here, it completely overlapped it because I came here for a teaching job. It is full-time teaching job. So my life became teaching full-time and then performing. So at a certain stage I was kind of slightly fed up. So where is this? I said, where is the performance in it? So then I thought like, hang on. So I get a lot of performance opportunities through kids as well. It is like and then I need to start loving, I need to start enjoying my work. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult thing. Then I started getting into it more and more, and working with the kids. And it's like it is a rewarding thing nowadays. And it's like it's that's really good thing that I've done it. And then since then, so I thought number one, I'm a teacher. I would say still up to date. I say that now I'm a strong teacher, not the best teachers. I'm developing, and then I've kind of, and then my performance comes next. So I give my first priority to teaching nowadays, and then my creative ideas, so kind of music arranging to the website, and then I had few things I've composed as well, and I've composed some songs and here and there, not so much. But like that, it's like I give priority to certain things. But I think I give priority to my teaching number one. So that's how it has like moved from my performance level to teaching. It doesn't mean like I'm not a performer. I perform a lot whenever there's opportunities. I perform a lot in different arenas, different gigs, or different types. Like example, I play the classical guitar, I play the jazz guitar, the bass guitar, and all the other kinds, um, and so things. That was my change to teaching. So then the other thing is like and then after that I did masters in education, so I got the opportunity through the school to do masters. So luckily I had the free opportunity to do masters where they came in to the school, and in all of the school teachers, but they came in to do the masters, and we were learning at certain times, and I did completed my masters in education, but I wrote about music then. I wrote about music education and education system. I learned a lot through that, because how to teach the kid, how kids are different, how different learners are there, different kinds of learners are there, and then how uh, talent and intelligence fluctuates amongst them. So because if every kid is different, it's all about we are helping them to achieve. There's no thing called there's nothing called you are not talented enough. That's that's not in my picture. Everybody is talented. Everybody has difficulties. It's all about finding the problems and solving the problem. Yeah, it's kind of
Right.
thing. That's what it's all about. One-to-one lessons. It's like the person has one-to-one teaching lesson. It means like you solve the problem then and there. That's what the YouTube cannot do. That's where sometimes YouTube cannot teach. That's where teachers still stands in a strong place. I think that's one of the main things. So it's like that. I've learned to love the job of teaching, and then getting into that line of things. Yeah, I'm really happy that it changed. But it didn't come as planned. I didn't plan it, so
Right.
it changed suddenly.
Right. So you mentioned about the performances. So I saw, like, I was looking at your Facebook and I see some of these updates. So
Yeah.
can you tell me a little bit about these performances that you have done? I know you were part of the Frozen, the
Yeah,
movie.
I play
There was performance
like
on that.
my line of work come in like in this point. Now, I would categorize myself a guitarist who could read music. So most of the guitarists, they find themselves in a quite struggle, like because they learn to read few notes, of course, but I've reached to a point where I can just sight read stuff. So the music was given to me, and then the music I just sight read and play into that according to that. So in certain lines, example, musicals, accompaniments, singers, soloists, flutists, and all of this fun stuff. And playing in a big band, you have to read music, jazz music. Even though jazz music is just improvised, big band music is all written. So
Right.
I play in the big band. So that and I played a guitar as well as the bass in the big band arena. So like that, my gigs came on that line. So if you say normal guitarists will get gigs, a lot of gigs to a band, they're playing in a band. So then they say like, oh, I play the guitar in this band, I play the bass in the bass band. But I have instead for me it was the amount of projects I got along the way. So, like example, if I take the musicals, I played in Les Miserables, Blood Brothers, We Will Rock You, Cats. Cats to play in Cats. I had to go to Bahrain. So like that in the big band, we had a lot of corporate gigs, like and those gigs were extremely well paid. It's nowadays. If I tell in Sri Lanka per one gig or one musician, there's a 21 members. Imagine the price. 21 band members. Each band member was paid nearly around 1,25,000 rupees. If I just convert roughly to this price, then per one gig. So for one gig, each musician was paid. Imagine the corporate gigs, the amount of the those gigs what has happened. They paid that for the amount of for the musicians as well as for the sound. So it's usually it's huge gigs, but it's more of a high end gigs. What we got for the big band. So it's a countless number of things with the Abu Dhabi Big Band when I played with Abu Dhabi Big Band, Abu Dhabi Little Big Band. So we took few times to establish as a band. And after that, the amount of things were huge. And after that, Mr. Mark Thompson, he was leading the band, and then he had to leave. So because these bands were made out of the expat Europeans and the Americans mixed with some of the Asian talents, we like us, few,
Mm.
uh, getting into that. Now, amongst that, like I would say, that's like if you say we get a lot of Philippine musicians in that because that in Philippines the music industry is huge, and they got a lot of things, but a lot of musicians the guitarists didn't read music. So, but few of them were well trained. Usually, mainly University of I think Manila and especially University of St. Thomas. University of St. Thomas, the students coming from that university in Philippines to here, they are amazing, simply
Right.
amazing musicians. You cannot you say like, are they better than Europeans? Yes, they are. They are that good. And then some of them are that totally top-notch musicians are there. So I work with a lot of multicultural musicians like the Americans and the Canadians and the Aussies and the British and the other Europe countries as well as in from Russians and people from Philippines, people from on different places. It's like that's a privilege that I had of coming here. But I would say that all the gigs that I got through that is because of that opportunity. I could read music, so it was giving me access to that areas where usual guitarists don't get access to.
Right. Right.
So that was kind of like an untapped market for the guitarist. So it's like it's not that that it's just really challenging because they always think the guitarist is the person who's struggling to read music. So conductors always thinks we are the ones who's struggling in it. So everybody thinks in certain ways. But now people know me, so so I've developed that standard in area. So then I get more gigs through that. So that's how I got it. Let's say I played in musicals, so played in big bands. So I played it. The biggest opportunity I got with playing here with the classical guitar, playing Concerto di Arune's Adagio movement with a school-built orchestra. So that was unforgettable moment. You get concerto opportunities in few times in life because you need to get orchestras, get organized, enough funding and all. So that's one of the opportunities I got. So and then I played in Frozen with the National Symphonic Orchestra. That was one of the biggest opportunities, achievements, I think. Because they had to check all the guitarists and recall the guitarist that they thought like is the best at that time. So and like that, there are countless numbers of gigs I played with different groups. Like there's a American community singing group is there, and then I played with them for a while as the electric guitarist as well as the bass guitarist. So I've switched instruments, and I play the acoustic guitar. Some of the musicals they need to play acoustic guitar, sometimes the bass guitar, sometimes the electric. So, but everything is written. So you get a thick book of written books for the gig. That's it.
Right.
So you need to play what is written, what is there in a gig. So apart from that, I had few interactions with the bands. Currently, I'm working in a band with apart from Sadyat Big Band. That is our new big band. So that's I'm working with them as the guitarist and sometimes part-time bass guitarist as well because we got a permanent bass guitarist there. So and then along with that, I work with a band called The Collective. She's Brianna Corrigan, and she's the former singer of the Beautiful South. You have you heard about the Beautiful South band? So because they went to charts, they had the some songs in the charts. It's called the Beautiful South. They're coming from Irish. They're a comer of Irish built band. So she's here. She's one of the teachers, colleagues working with me, and I have a huge number of talented colleagues. So we got collaborated a band called The Collectives, and we are doing some recordings. Most recently, she has posted some in the Bandcamp. I think she got a few numbers came in the Bandcamp. I think few weeks back, and in the Christmas season we did as well. So I'm working there as the bass guitarist, sometimes as alternative. Like example, like if it is classical guitar, I alternate with the other guitarist. So Dennis, he's from Philippines, he's very talented as well. So we alternate guitars from each other. So that's the things we have. So it's the countless numbers of times I had the opportunities. It's like, but if you ask me, but Kalana, do you play weekly? No, especially after COVID, I didn't. We had less few opportunities to do that. But before that, I was getting gigs at least you could say um, 2 3 gigs monthly. Not a huge amount, but it was like because my earning comes from teaching most of the time, so I cannot do a lot of gigging. But so I get only gigs that's where I could eventually contribute my time to it as well as I get enough financial support from it. So I don't get gigs, which is like just simply free.
I also noticed, Kalana, like when I look at your Facebook, you have this amazing connections to all over the world. People who post on your Facebook is like from different places, right? Different musicians. So that's a sort of a community that you build around you now, right?
Of course, yeah. It's huge because all the people who's done big band, who's coming into UAE. Imagine amount of schools or the work. The people are working in military. People are working in teaching. So the brass players or the trombone players or the woodwind players of clarinetists, everything comes together, and
Right.
then everybody comes together, and then through that we I've got to know most of the musicians over the years. It's huge amount. It's like for me certainly in a way meeting celebrities like and then some of them were like amazing. So I've actually shared and learned a lot through them as well as and then I've enjoyed playing with them. So I think it's a huge privilege to meet all those musicians. But sometimes we say that sometimes they're not maybe not well known, like kind of like they are, because they're not doing popular music kind of thing. So
Right.
they're
Right.
not well known, but extremely good musicians. And then some of them are really world class musicians as well. Yeah, so that's how it. And then I met Jason Carter. He's a like very good acoustic guitarist. He's a harp guitarist. He had a harp guitar playing with Jason. I did a workshop with Jason because he did the workshop at school with me, with the students, with my students. But I had the opportunity to meet up with him and discuss a lot of things along the way as well. Like that, I met lots of musicians on the way, but I had an issue with like where I don't remember lots of names, kind of thing,
Right.
and I met a
Yeah,
lot.
so it's like a black. You know what I've been doing, like probably for the last 3 4 years. I've been, whenever there's an opportunity to go and see one of these guitarists that we love, right, the music. So I went to I tried to go to all the gigs. I actually I sent you some of the photos earlier. Like I went and met almost like a lot
Yeah,
of these artists.
it's-
uh
like
yeah,
what a privilege, like amazing.
yeah, like Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, and all this. And then I actually was able to see also Eric Clapton in 2014. I went
Well,
to his show. I think it was like his last show in Asia. Like he never came to Asia after that. So I was lucky. I was on the same city at that time, so I just went and watched.
wow, amazing.
Yeah, I was almost like crying because when he played Tears in Heaven, and like that's a song that we know from like
Yeah,
very deeply, right? So yeah,
yeah,
it felt
exactly.
very
It's
very experienced.
such a well written song, isn't it? Like, and then up to date, we play with that love and the passion. There's no thing that it's like. I think it's musically challenging, as well as if you look at all the angles, it's it's uh, it's challenging. Like for every I think every musician have their number of saying that lifetime. This is my best. I think for me, Beatles yesterday, for me, Eric Clapton, A Tears in Heaven, like that. Like Richard Marx, like what's that song, Now and Forever, kind of
No,
thing.
forever.
Like
Yeah.
each musician has that. I think Eric Clapton. We remember Eric Clapton throughout the life because of this Tears in Heaven. I think nobody can write that song again.
Right.
So
So, Kalana, one thing I really appreciate of you is that you maintain a great website where you publish content, and you maintain a YouTube channel. You put content, you put your
yeah,
performances, and then you do your classical versions of song. I actually really enjoyed the one you did from Les Miserables. I Dream the Dream. You have your own classical version, which is really nice, and We Are the Champions.
yeah.
One more thing that I really enjoy is this one. I don't know if you know this album. This is Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stairway to Heaven, because I think that was a really good interpretation of what you did. It's
Yeah,
really
that's because when you come to classical guitar, people get it wrong because people think classical guitar you play only classical music. You can play everything with it. The idea is to play solo. The guitar is
right.
trying to sing out as a soloist without getting any accompaniment. They are trying to get everything into the audience through one guitar. So that's the attempt that we are trying to do through the guitar. So that we these playing through the songs, I think that's amazing thing because when you hear it from a classical guitar or when you hear it from acoustic guitar, when you hear it from a electric guitar, so you get different feels, isn't it? So it just takes you into a different world, and then I think that you get some small pockets of audience like started loving it, certain ways. That's where I think sometimes I do arrangements on my own, but at the same time I play other people's arrangements as well because I think it's all to do with a good arrangement. It's not that saying for the sake of, oh, I arranged 100 songs by myself. But the thing is, if my arrangement that particular time is not working, we need to leave that and just find something that's working. That's what I do usually. I do play other musicians' arrangements because I read lots of arrangements through the day. Sometimes you have to read the whole book to get one good arrangement. So
Right.
when that arrangement is there, I use that. Especially Japanese musicians, Japanese guitarists, their arrangements for the pop music arrangements was like most of their arrangements was top notch. So their arrangement really good sounding, and then I think the knowledge of Japanese musicians are really good, I thought, when it comes to the pop music arrangements. Even though I think the Europeans or these ones, the Americans, their arrangements for the guitars, songs, arrangements for the guitars, I didn't find them uh, that effective in a certain way. But instead, I found Japanese composers, arrangements really effective. Oh, and then like there was one Filipino guitarist who played um, what's his name by the song by the Queen. What's his name? I forgot his name. What's the most popular song by the Queen? Ta-da-da-da, ta-da-da-da. Yeah, Mama,
Oh,
like
Bohemian Rhapsody.
that he has arranged for the classical guitar. He's from Philippines. His arrangement was one of the best arrangements what I've come across. So like that, like it's finding that arrangement and playing it. I'll be recording more. I'm getting a small break because the last term has been hectic. So I'll be working with an back website. I'll be changing the website and the method and the ideology of it. So the people will have more resources in the upcoming the next year, where I'm going to categorize it in two different ways, where Western and and East, where like Sri Lankan, so then people can navigate easily. So then we can have people who wants to play this one, even the people who wants to play a few chords and get into the guitar. I'm going to conduct few lessons for them as well. So I'm not going to conduct lessons throughout, but I think it's important that I conduct a few lessons through that as well. Yeah, I'm maybe in the method. We are in the middle of writing a method book. Me and Mr. Jude Peters, my guru, and we were planning to write a method book for different categories. But we are still in organizing stage. We don't want to rush into it because we want to give a good product instead of just writing a method book, because it's all about the service to the community, service to the future generations, so then they can have that opportunity to learn. Especially Sri Lankans, we have lack of resources, and then we are trying to develop that area, because even though people criticize us on a certain base, we won't stop, because our main goal is to educate the youngsters, give them the opportunity that they have. Like example, like Channa, am I talking too much?
No, 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 no. Go ahead. I really want to listen to you.
It's like if you compare Sri Lanka and Philippines, if you take that example, like Philippines is more Western influenced country, so they had influence from the like Portuguese, and also they had that line of music, as well as they had the influence of Americans, and they had that line of music as well, along with their cultural music, and then there are more Western influence. But Sri Lanka, on the other hand, is more Eastern influence country. So the Western music is a small part of it. Just try to emerge and try to hang on there. But
Right.
like in Philippines, they can really enjoy full show of Western music. But in Sri Lanka, there's none of the bands can play a full show of Western music. So they had to finish up with the baila. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say something about Philippines. So the cultural music is called kundiman. So it's actually based on Spanish guitar, right? So it's based on, and the other thing is Filipino culture, because Spanish ruled here for like thousands of years. So the culture is influenced by, it's actually sort of a Spanish culture. So it's natural for them to that have that, even the musical taste and feelings is related to that music, so it's not difficult for them to express that through guitar, right?
yeah, the other thing is, like, I think there are still parts in Philippines. They still play that Spanish music. It's like that kind of a music. And then I see a lot of musicians. Their love for that line of music is even amazing. And it's like I think they have really talented musicians there.
Yeah, especially also like a lot of vocalists, I think. I mean, there are so many people, anybody, like if you give them a mic, they can sing. That's the sort of the reality in the Philippines.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So Kalan, I also want to ask you. You did. I saw that you performed couple of arrangements done by Dinesh Subasing. Dinesh is also like you and me from Nigambo, and he also had that what we call ඒ දවස්වල කියන්නේ උණ තියෙනවා කියලා,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
he
Dinesh
was
had
so
it.
passionate about music, right? He
Yeah.
was always looking for it, and he has gone like international level already. He's so amazing, right?
Exactly.
Musician.
Yeah, I think the what I love about Dinesh is his commitment then, his commitment now is the same. Because I think the you know the I would say the crave he had for that composing and to bring out his creative ideas. So what he had done is he's gone to musicians and he's collected the stuff he needed to know in a certain way. Do you know what I mean? Like so he came to me and say, play this. Can I? How can I play this? How can I play this? How can I play this? It's not that you cannot teach Dinesh like complete method book. So Dinesh will learn what he needs to learn. So
Right.
it's kind of like I think he kind of knows what he needs to get on a certain bit. So he try to he's always trying to acquire that. But the what the huge thing about Dinesh, like because those two arrangements Dinesh said during pandemics, he said, Kalana, I had let's write some music for the classical guitar. I had some written that, and I was kind of surprised within 2 days. Spot on. He got the music brown, handwritten, so Western music, so very well written. So like all the other, these ones were like his grouping was very good, and then his arrangement is it's really good. Like amazing arrangement. And the first one, the second one is another one to follow on a different style of writing. So and then he's never what I would um, so if I describe Dinesh as a musician, he's never scared to experiment, and he had ideas to express anything, so any certain ways. So I would assume that Dinesh would like become one of the top musicians, like top like what do you say, one of the top composers in Sri Lanka, and then he might lead that arena on that line of composing. So I think the for me, even though he's done some amazing amount of work, I think the best of Dinesh is yet to come.
Right. Right.
He's like that's where I think like that's where he should get those exposed and the opportunities. I think more he gets into that, more he gets into that, then he when I think the challenges when it comes across, I think the best of him is yet to come. So, but it's his way of thinking. I don't think I ever can go there. For me, if I say, can you do that? Because then I never can go there because I think he's in a place that he's built up his own identity through his music, and then he's composed some stuff that he wanted to express. So sometimes you can say, oh, this is composed by Dinesh, and this is done by Dinesh. I used to sometimes my wife puts teledramas and all, so I hear that, I tell her that's Dinesh, and then you see the composer. Oh yes, yes, that's composed by Dinesh. So he has developed that identity of his own kind of music. So that I think that I'm really proud of him, and as a brother that lived up in that same area, I'm just really happy for him that he's come so far in that line. So I just wish him all the best. I think I'm sure he'll give us lots.
Yeah. He has that unique sound, like when you hear movie soundtrack John Williams, you know that it's
Yeah,
John Williams, right?
exactly, exactly.
Hans Zimmer, you know it's Hans Zimmer. It
Yeah,
like
exactly.
he has that same vibe, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think like the biggest thing is he was never scared to put that in because as youngsters, I think what some most of them us had was judging the audience, thinking that, what do you think if the audience didn't like it? So like, I think in some stages, I think what they think. No matter what the audience, they don't like it, they like it, they, whatever they think, we are going ahead with it. Some people, if they have that kind of a strategy, I think they're going to succeed in. But it's a different line, you know. It's like it's when you come to teaching or performing or a accompanist or a composing or conducting. I think there's a different ways of thinking. But definitely, Dinesh has got the natural ability of a composer or an artist. So you've already got that appearance and the approach towards that line.
Right. Kalana, I also saw that you mentioned you're writing a method book that eventually helps Sri Lankan musicians, guitarists as well.
Yeah,
But
and so in Sri Lankan, we are writing a globalized method book, but our main base is Sri Lankan based, because I think we are writing Western music arrangements, all the Western music songs and everything. So, but according to that level of standard, and but amongst that we are including Sri Lankan arrangement songs as well, because then it gives us that like pride of saying this is a method book published by Sri Lankan musicians on so and so. But you can explore, like example, in Philippines, you got method books written by the composers there. They have written other arrangements as well as their arrangements in the cultural arrangements as well, like that.
right, right, right.
So, and the other, we know that there's a certain issue in the methods. World classical guitar or guitar methods, there are no complete methods written for the guitar up to date. Even though there are tons of millions of books, people will get books lost in books. But what we had a problem is most of the guitarists, they start at a very kind of a late age compared to the other instruments. We want the guitarists to start in an early stage, so we want to fix the problem there on an early stage to build up. Example, if a child wants to start at the age of 6 guitar, and if they want to make progress by age of 7 and 8, want to become up to that standard, so they need to have good methods there. So the guitar method books are not organized for those. So mostly it's organized for the very high end guitarists. So that's why.
Right. What I was going to say, that I saw that you actually doing some classical guitar workshops in Sri Lanka for kids, and tell me about that.
Yeah, we and first after my concert at Sri Lanka, after my fellowship in Sri Lanka, and then I did a concert in Sri Lanka, and then after that, my teacher, Mr. Jude Peters, has suggested it's best that instead of you performing as the opportunity for the students, I think the best thing to do is uh, 1 second, Channa. Best thing to do is it keeps ringing. 1 minute. Best thing to do was. Uh, 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 to like kind of educate kids through the workshop. So Miss Judpi's had students based a lot of access to students then. So we have decided to do some workshops, and then we over the years we have done workshops continuously, each and every year, for the musicians as well as the beginners as well as the advanced students as well as the moderate students. We took 1 day, we booked a place, and we were doing a workshop starting from somewhere around 9 o'clock in the morning till around 4 o'clock in the evening. That's a whole day workshop. So we were discussing about a lot of issues and the techniques and the books and the methods and the pedagogical approach to the methods and everything. So there were so and so things. So it was, I think the feedback was amazing, because some kids, some students were saying, or we were waiting for that moment, and then we had that chance and opportunity to interact, and not only to interact, to learn a lot. So around that area, so I think more and more workshops will happen. We continue to do workshops. Last year we did the virtual workshop, and this year in August in Poya Day we are hoping to do the workshop as well, for the intermediate students, especially focusing on the intermediate level guitarists. So that's our main goal. But I think in terms of the kinds of guitars, we were mostly focused on classical guitar, in the sense, because I think we thought that's the area we need to focus rather than generalizing guitar. But I think people might learn few things, but I think that would not be helpful for the people who's learning for the small bits that they're missing in their playing. Example, like if you say the finger position, how he plays on a certain beats or and a slur or a tremolo technique, how the things can be accomplished. I think the small tip might help to change go a huge way.
Right.
It's like a cricketer playing a bat. I remember once the Aravind said there was a after the World Cup, and there was a period of time he didn't succeed in cricket. And then he said, I went to India, and then I met one of the top coaches there. I think I don't remember his name. And then he said he's changed my angle slightly, ever so slightly, to make it straight. From that point onwards, he started scoring again. So that even that small bit, that's what our aim is. That small change might really help to improve that line.
Right.
That's our main goal to give them a lifeline through that, saying that, see, not only you're not alone, we all are there with you.
Right. Uh, Kalana, I watched your recent interview with Tony M.
Yeah.
That was a very long video, and it was really interesting that you what you were talking there. And I think he's doing a very good channel that he's bringing all the musicians and talking to them. No?
Yeah, that's amazing thing about Tony, and amazing thing about you is like it's not you are not picking up the most popular people. You're picking up the people who's like being untouched. You're picking up the people that people should know about, but people didn't know about.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what Tony is trying to do through his channel. Which is always obviously when you say the marketing, it's a risk that he takes and that risk that you take, isn't it? But some people might think, oh, I want to take the most popular singer and then come and have any fun interview with it, and people are listening to it, and a lot of people are listening to it. But you are compromising in a certain way because by putting us in and saying that like, a lot of people won't know us. But I think that's a huge um, thanks to Tony as well as you by inviting musicians that didn't have the chance to sing.
Right. So, Kalana, what's your message to the viewers of the podcast? I know a lot of Sri Lankans will also watch this. So, what's your message to them?
My message to them is like to the audience. My message is um, you are very talented. You got the taste to that kind of music. So what I would say, instead of uh, listening to one kind of music, do expose to other lines as well. And then I think as an audience, the other thing is uh, you need to appreciate because I'm talking behalf of the instrumentalists. So I would love to talk behalf of them. So what they feel, I feel. The audience most of the time because they are getting criticized because of they didn't do this, they are not doing that. In Sri Lanka, this is not developed a lot. What they need is appreciation. So the audience can give appreciation to them. You get good musicians in the upcoming years. And for the musicians, I have to say, hang on there. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. So don't ever give up. That's where I am. So I never give up. So don't ever give up, Sigo, because if you stay in the wicket, you will get your score. So
Right.
yeah, so don't ever give up. So that's my message to the audience and the musicians.
Yeah. I mean, I also want to add to that. Like, uh, from doing this podcast, I recorded like 140 episodes so far. Like, so
Yeah,
it's like so many people,
yeah,
and I at the beginning it was very slow. People were not watching. I got frustrated, but I kept going and I kept going. I just started, I didn't
yeah,
care about the likes or whatever. I just kept going, and then now I see that over like 70 countries is listening to this podcast. So I'm even surprised who are these people who actually listen to this, right? Like,
yeah.
yeah. So I agree with what you said. It's you should never give up and just keep on going because
True. Because
you,
because I think what we had is what you have is passion about it. You're passionate, but I'm passionate about what I do. I think the musicians should decide what they are passionate about, and then then things will start coming. As long as you're passionate and I think things will start coming. It's like because I think that's one of the key things, being passionate about what you do.
Right, right. So, Kalana, anybody you want to shout out to?
I would like to shout out to, like, just say huge thanks to my mother and the family, and then helping me through my difficult times, and then obviously my family, my wife and my kids, and then they were been with me as all the time behind me. When not only the times that I do well, not also the times I'm down. So that's where the family comes in. It's like whether you are good or bad, they're always with you. So I think I should have a huge thanks to them for being with me in the times of difficult times as well as the successful times. I must thank my teachers, Mr. Jude Perez and Shirley Mendes, and Sister Aya and Maurice Soisa and Christian Vikramanayaka, and for those like few bit of people I had a small interaction with, and then it's and in the teaching side as well as for my colleagues, for my band members, the Shiral, Sham, Monil, and all those people who's there with me at the beginning. Also, they've been amazing friends, and they've been motivating me to do that stuff kind of music. So they've been a really good audience, and their help. And Shane and Sean and that group as well. So they've been really helpful throughout these years. And then I have to mention about a band called the World End, where Jerome and all the other members were there. They were being really helpful as well, and Ironies was there. And then yeah, so finally, just want to say huge thank you for getting me involved into this kind of interview. This is kind of new to me, of course, but I like it. Thank you. Really appreciate it, Channa.
Yeah, thanks, Kalana. And I also want to mention one more person, Sandun Fernando.
Yeah, I, sorry, Sandhu, if you're listening, I really appreciate, really sorry about it. Somehow I just slipped through my mind. And Manura, Sandhun Manura, and then there are lots, I think, because Anil, Sham, Manura, Shane, Shiral, Chandika, and Kalum, Petty Kalim, and Amal, and all those people were there.
Yeah, because I shared that Tony M video on my Facebook. Then Sandun actually commented, "Why don't you do a podcast with Kalana?" Because he first,
Yeah,
that's how I had the idea I should talk to you. So
yeah,
I want to thank Sandun. So Kalana,
yeah,
thank you for joining. Uh, I mean, of course, we can actually talk even more, but we have to, stop somewhere. But I really appreciate what you have accomplished and what you're doing to Sri Lanka and what you're bringing back. And so, thank you for joining and have a safe, and have a safe where you are. And then
yeah,
uh, looking forward to you doing more things. I always
yeah.
watch your YouTube channel. I watch that. I like to see more content.
I
Yeah,
will do.
so all the best.
Thank you, Channa. Really appreciate it again. And then, yeah, keep doing your work. Channa. All right. All the best, Channa. You take care.
Thank you.